You guys asked for it, so now it's time to speedrun all the mods 10 in world record time. We've got bosses to take down, rituals to conjure, and machines that aren't gonna build themselves. So feel free to drop a like below and subscribe to the channel for more content in the future. Now it's time to game. Welcome to the world of all the mods 10. Let's hop right into... Wait a minute. Phew, that was a close one. Now, where were we? Oh yeah, speedrunning. Alright, so there's a couple things we'll need to note for all the mods 10. One of the biggest things is that all the mods 10 is on the newest version of Minecraft, which means not all the mods have been updated to this version yet. So compared to 9, we're missing some big mods, such as Botania, Blood Magic, and Refined Storage. The mod team has also made a bunch of changes, some of which are for crafting the star. Now, there's no official rules for this speedrun, probably because most people aren't crazy like me. So I may do some things in this speedrun that some people may consider unfair. And to that, I say, deal with it. Honestly, I don't do anything that bad. The biggest thing is just using the /back command, which the mod team has had plenty of time to remove, so yell at them, I don't know. In all fairness, it only saves about maybe 30 minutes on the whole run, so do with that what you may. Now, I know it's kind of cliche, but like, no one is subscribed to my channel. So no pressure to sub, but it would definitely motivate me to make more videos. I promise I won't torture you with the Wii music anymore. But all that aside, let's get into the video. Alright, first up, one big change is we can't make the boat right away. The recipe changed to add some iron and some wool, so we'll need to get those first. So let's run around this world and see what it has to offer. We're gonna need some basic tools, and there's also this weird structure over here. Inside of it is a spawner, and guess what's right behind it? A block of diamond. Unfortunately, we can't mine that quite yet, so let's get some food going. Let's give this cave a quick look. You'll notice I have my shaders on this time, and that's because I need the dynamic lighting. Give me brightness. Geronimo. This cave was a bit of a dud, so let's search elsewhere. Up on the surface, we see one of the best structures we can find. Under this little castle is a huge dungeon with lots of loot. So let's make a quick banner with that wool, pick up some of the iron bars on the structure. Then we'll need a couple chest boats. Then let's combine those all to make our supply camp. Let's clear some space for it, select our style, and plop that bad boy down. And make sure to fill in all the holes that it tells you to. Now we can plop it down. So let's head inside, set up some questionably placed chests. And you'll notice that this is the land version of the boat. So we got our stack of iron upstairs, with all our smelting setups. Don't forget that wool, which we can crush into some string. And let's use that to make a backpack. Don't forget that hidden block of golden coal. Set up a quick smelter, craft some swabs. We'll also dabble in some Ars magic. So let's get that set up for later. And now let's head into that dungeon. This dungeon's got a couple layers and a lot of chests. So let's keep an eye out for some ender pearls. But be careful, because these dungeons are no joke. So let's see how much loot we can grab. And don't worry too much if you get low on health. Just head back home, heal up, and then you're right back into the action. So yeah, the /back command is pretty strong. We don't have any danks, but we can make a pocket storage unit, and those are basically the same thing. And don't forget, we're looking to get some DNA down here. Oh man. Oh. Blow him up, creeper. Excuse me. Excuse me. Coming through. And that should be good for now. Into the caves we go. We're gonna need some prosperity ore, some inferium ore, and thank God they made uranium ore common. We'll need a couple dark gems. And look what I found. If you're not caught up on the All the Mods lore, we're gonna need a deep dark for some Altamodium. And don't mind if I fart a little. Some more DNA for my tip. And grab as much redstone as you can find. We're gonna need head back to make a pickaxe to mine Altamodium. Now, Botania isn't here, but you can tell with all my farting that I got plenty of cheese up my sleeve. Anyways, we can just make an Inferium pickaxe instead. So let's use that slash back and search for some Altamodium. And if it isn't our old friend, you are not a chest. Now the Relics mod did get a little bit of an update, so there are some new relics. Oh my gosh, I got the OP boots. These things are crazy strong. Kind of like a poor man's jetpack. And over in this chest, we found a magnet. Is that it? Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is the run. We're now 50 minutes in, and we've got Altamodium. Then I realized I probably should have fortuned that, but whatever. So let's head into Evilcraft to make some fortune pickaxes. And this is where I learned that the magnet actually has two settings, one of which pushes stuff away. Of course, we want the sucking. Now we can make a fortune pickaxe, and we'll need some obsidian. And let's use a handy anvil to take off those enchants. And now we can put a fortune on our pickaxe. Now no more slacking, let's head over to the mining dimension. Next up on our list is going to be some basic power generation. So let's make a couple alloys and turn those into a wind generator. Let's put it right there. Now, since refined storage is not in this mod pack, we're going to need to charge up a compass, which will lead us over to a meteor. Hope you can hold your breath. Inside of this bad boy, we got some Cirrus quartz and a mysterious cube. And that's going to contain our presses. So let's mine up the rest of that Cirrus quartz and start working on our ME system. We can make a storage controller to connect all our chests, and let's power up these machines. We're also going to need to take a quick trip to the Nether. Yeah, that movie was peak. Anyways, we're grabbing up some dimensional ore, and then let's head over to some blazes. We'll need to make some Flux crystals, and to crush them up too. Now we can make a reaction chamber, as well as a couple inscribers. The reaction chamber is going to let us grow some more crystals, and the inscribers are going to make us some processors. And gosh flippity darn, I ran out of redstone. Let's go mining for some. Give me some redstone, please. Thank you. Now that we finally got some, let's finish up our processors, place down our controller, craft up a crafting terminal, and then a storage bus to connect all our chests. And now we've graduated from staring at a chest for 20 seconds looking for that one item. Now let's yearn for the mines once more, as we're going to need lots of iron and coal. Don't forget to ore hammer that iron. And now it's time to let our furnace do its job. We got the goods for a reactor now, so let's make all those pieces. They changed the recipe from All the Mods 9, and it's now about 4 times more expensive. But we got the pieces now, so let's build the reactor. And with that built up, we just need to fuel it and connect our cables. And now that we have power going, it's time to make a quarry. Just gotta take a quick trip to the Nether, to swap a wither skeleton, and to bully some guests. Let's use that tier to make a fortune quarry, and a quick filter, which will save us some power from the quarry mining it. We just gotta set some dimensions, plop that card in there, and make sure to give it some storage and power. And don't forget to add some stack upgrades. Now let's pull all that ore out of the ME system, and dump it right into our furnace. Next up, we're going to want to make some seeds. So let's set up a quick altar, And of course, don't forget to set up your routers. We can convert some quartz into prismarine, and then crush those down into shards. Then we can combine those together to start making the seeds. We also got some fish seeds from a quest, which will save us a little bit of time. But the squids aren't safe, so let's make some soul jars, as well as a soul dagger. And now it's time to kill some squids. And with our souls successfully collected, let's turn them into seeds. We should also make a jetpack, as our boots are not cutting it anymore. We'll also need some diamond seeds, as well as some dye seeds. And because we can't focus on one thing at a time, we're going to need to find an ancient city. And to find one, all we need is a little ritual. And with our compass equipped, and our jetpack slowly running out of fuel, let's head on over to the ancient city. Here we'll find some clay, and we can use the brush to get an Altamodium template. Then, last but not least, we gotta get some echo shards. And let's also snag a shrieker for later. Oh yeah, and head back to the nether to get a smithing template. So let's just duplicate that real quick. Then we'll need a netherite pickaxe. And let's upgrade it one more time to Altamodium. Don't forget to grab those enchants off the old pickaxe, and toss them on our new one. Now let's get some more ender pearls. And don't forget about our boys, the slimes. I even made a sword this time. Let's quickly grow some of those crops so that we can make a conduit. We're also going to need some mob mashers, and let's grab some spawners. Don't worry, in all the mods 10, any spawner will do. And some conveyor belts to push those mobs. So now let's build up that mob grinder. We'll also need some experience buckets. That way we can turn our swabs into spawn eggs. First up on the spawner list is going to be wither skeletons. And be sure to buff up your spawners. Let's get some flux dust for some wireless power. Now pop a magnet upgrade in that chest. Make a bunch of looting upgrades. And some sharpness upgrades. Now we can use those skulls to fight a wither. And don't forget to tag its data model. And toss those into the deep learner. Now we just gotta smack them. And don't forget some stack upgrades for this chest too. Now we're going to need some leaves, and dark oaks are pretty good for those. So what we're going to need to do is place a bunch of them down. Then we'll need to craft some brilliant fibers, and convert as many leaves as we can into golden leaves. You technically only need one golden fiber, but this will help speed up the process. Now we can set up a little ritual. This is all for nature's aura. And we can just harvest some golden leaves whenever we need them. Now we're going to need some oak saplings as well. And let's change our spawners over to creepers, skeletons, and slimes. Now we'll just need to do a few rituals. Just place the required items on the pedestals, then grow a tree in the center. Then eventually you'll have your items. And we'll need to do one more to make an altar. Unfortunately, this doesn't work in the mining dimension, so we'll need to build it in the overworld. With that complete, all we gotta do is give it a block of iron, and let it cook. And once it's done, let's do the same thing with gold. We'll then use those to make an offering table. And now it's time to pick some flowers. And before we can use it, we'll need some Spirits of Calling. Grab another gold block, and let's put those into the altar to turn them into sky ingots. Now we have everything we need to make some fancy Nature's Aura Dust. So let's do this ritual a couple times while we stand near the mob grinder. We're also going to need a lot of dye essence. So let's craft up some regular lily pads and a bunch of green dye. We'll use those mob drops to get fertile essence, then combine everything together to get some lily pads of fertility. We're going to need about 90 of those, so let's get some more dust. Alright, with all those made, it's time to make the farm. We're also going to need some aluminium hose. And those are going to go in our harvesters. So let's make a second layer. And don't forget to waterlog them. All that's left is to till the ground and put some chests on top of the pylons. And of course we can't forget our fertilizer. And this little device helps shrink down to the smaller area. Most of them are pretty basic recipes. Let's use that mob grinder to fill up some XP jars. Then turn those into experience seeds. That'll do on the seeds for now. Let's place down some Felix blocks and use some Entro seeds to start growing some Entro crystals and speed them up with some growth accelerators. Now we can finally make a wireless terminal, and we've got all our storage on the go. And slap in an infinity booster. We'll upgrade it to dimensional later. Now we can get some Entro ingots and use those to make a crystal assembler. Next up on the list is setting up auto crafting. Let's put down a couple more controllers for more channels and set up our pattern terminals. Now, unlike refined storage, this auto crafting takes forever to set up. So let's do a bunch of molecular assemblers and put some pattern providers in between those. We can make some wireless connectors, and then we'll need a couple matter bells to make a singularity. Let's use that to make a wireless setup kit. Now we just replace the controller in our old setup and connect it to our new one. With that set up, we need to make some patterns. And of course the first one is a pattern for patterns. But before we can craft stuff, we'll need some storage blocks. And let's add some co-processing units to speed them up. But now we've got auto crafting set up. Now let's speed up some processor crafting. Let's make a circuit slicer and set that up on a pattern provider. Let's also do the same thing with the crystal assembler. And now we can auto craft some processors. We can also make some extended pattern providers, and these will let us store way more patterns per block. Let's keep an eye on those Entro clusters, as we're going to need enough to make some Entro seeds. Now it's time to finish off our wither models. And we're going to need 6 of them to complete the training. Now let's set up some simulation chambers, as well as some loot fabricators. Now just set up some routers to connect them all. And with those now automated, let's set up a furnace for our crafting. And we'll also want to set up our crusher. But now that we're making nether stars, let's make a dimensional card. And keep an eye on those entro crystals. And soon enough, we have enough to make a seed. Now we're going to want to set up some enchanting. We're going to need a couple sea shelves. And then we can infuse those. Then craft those into some higher tier bookshelves. And place those bad boys down. Now you're not a true Minecraft pro if you don't craft the bow backwards every time. And let's give that bad boy a little enchant. We'll need that in a little bit. But we also want to infuse some deep shelves. That way we can start duplicating a couple echo shards. Let's use those to make a recovery compass. And upgrade that bad boy into an explorer's compass. Which is the same thing as a structure compass from All the Mods 9. Now it's time to head back to the overworld. And it's time to go to the stronghold. Once you're in, just take a look at the map, and you can easily find the portal room. Once we're in, let's set up a quick waystone, and this time we're actually fighting the dragon. And don't forget to grab that data model. And that's one down, and one to go. Pull up that data model into one of our simulation chambers. Then we gotta head back to the ancient city. And on the way, we find one of the rare 4 relics we're gonna need. We've got a waystone for this place now. And what we're gonna need is some silk touch. So let's plop that on a hoe. And head back to the ancient city to grab some shriekers. With those, we can make some goo. And we'll need to upgrade that all the way. Feed this thing some skulk, then it'll convert some of our blocks into a new resource. We're gonna need to do the same thing with some gold. As well as some diamonds. And even some netherite blocks. Let's also turn some amethyst into budding amethyst. Now we just gotta cook those ores, and now we can make some machines with them. We'll need to convert these amethysts with the goo. And now we gotta do a setup 3 different times. First setup is in the overworld. We'll just need 2 different swappers as well as a sensor. Make sure all the machines are on the same target, and have our sensor looking out for the correct type of time crystal. And don't forget to power the machines. Now we're gonna link our first swapper, and head over to the nether to repeat the same process. Connect our overworld swapper to here, and then grab the next one. And then this sensor is going to be looking out for the next stage of the time crystal. Now we do our final setup in the end, except this one's going to need a block breaker. Just give that bad boy a pickaxe and tell it to mine some crystals. And we'll need to magnet them into a chest. And don't forget to chunk load all these areas. Now we just place that time crystal into the overworld, and after a few moments it's going to pop into the nether. Then racing to the nether, we'll see it pop into the end. And let's use some growth accelerators to speed this one up. This will start producing some time crystals for us. Let's use some to make a time wand. Then we'll just need some polymorph stuff, toss that into water, and toss in a time crystal. And now we got some time juice for our wand. This is basically the time in the bottle, but unlike the time in the bottle, we don't need to wait for it to get some juice. Now let's set up some power crafting, as we're going to need some more power generation. And while those are going, let's set up a simple latex farm. And we can test out our new time wand. A lot of these machines are going to need some water, so the easiest way to do that is to make some water source blocks. Now we can turn some of that latex into rubber. Let's now restock on our time crystals. That way we can fill up our time wand even more. Let's now use that rubber to make some dissolution chambers. And of course we want to auto craft them. We're also going to need some pink slime, so let's get a mob slaughter factory going. So with those bad boys set up, let's head into the other. And since we don't need those spawners anymore, let's actually go to basalt deltas. And all you gotta do is dig down until you find some soul lava. And the Mekanism tanks are great for grabbing this up. So let's take that back home so we can set up some generators. Just place that thermo generator over the soul lava. And don't forget to give it some water. And while we auto-craft some more thermo generators, let's set up some Warden Milking. Don't forget a stasis chamber, as well as a couple laser drills. Toss in some upgrades. And now we're gonna need to spawn a Warden. Luckily we have that Shrieker from earlier. You can just stand on these bad boys to activate them. And after a little bit, our mommy milker is here. Yoink! Let's add a couple more thermo generators now that they're done. Now we just gotta place that Warden. Warden milk. And this man is way too loud, so let's silence him. We can then connect those souls into our system, and now we can access them wherever we want. Let's also get a couple more Wardens, but this time we gotta beat them up, because we're gonna need some Echo Shards, and I don't want to enchant them all. And with those bad boys dead, we can start training the model. And our reactor has finally made enough cyanide to make some cyanide seeds. Now that we have some souls going, let's pump them into our machines. Next up on the list is we're going to need to automate some Mekanism. So be sure to upgrade your machines, and let's also upgrade those cables. We're going to need some battery storage, so let's make a thermal evaporation plant. And since we're going to need two, let's use this handy copy-paste gadget. Then you just gotta pump some heat into the machines. Just set how much power you want to use, and I just used the max. Then I noticed my power is struggling a little bit, which should not be happening. That's awkward. Whoopsies. But now we're making some brine and lithium. Then the final step is to turn that lithium into dust. With that set up, let's make a big battery. And now that we can store some power, let's boost up that power gen. And if we ever need more power, let's just use our time wand. So now that we got some power stored up, we can make a Mekanism reactor. We'll need to add some rods. And be sure to cap those off. And what's a reactor without some fuel? So let's get working on it. We're gonna need some hydrogen and oxygen. We'll also need to pump some uranium cakes. And let's do the same thing with sulfur. Mix some stuff into that sulfur a couple times, and then pump some fluoride into that. Now mix that uranium back in, and give it a little bit of processing to make some fissile fuel. Now we just gotta add some water to the reactor, and let's trash all the steam it's gonna output. We'll get the output pipes ready to go, and now we just add our fizzle fuel. Now we just gotta change the burn rate to the max it can do, which leaves you at an evil temperature. But we're not doing evilcraft yet. We'll split that nuclear waste into making some plutonium and polonium. And we'll make some pellets out of crushed up pumpkins. We'll convert some of that plutonium into pellets, and do the same thing with polonium. Once we have enough, we can make an SPS machine. Now we just gotta hook up our polonium to it, and use tons of power to make some antimatter. And because you can never have enough reactors, let's head over into the extreme reactors. Let's teach our system how to make some of these things. Then it's off to build it. And with that done, we'll need some fuel for it. So let's make a reprocessor. And this thing's so annoying because I always make it wrong the first time. So let's fix that up. Now let's also copy this one because we're going to need a few of them. Our first one's going to need some water, as well as some cyanide. Then we just turn it on to make some plutonium. We're also going to need a second reactor, and this is the moment where I think I accidentally break the first one. I accidentally pasted some of the old stuff into there, but I checked it and it still worked. But this will have consequences later on. Anyways, let's actually copy this one. And then we'll need to paste it as a second reactor. Let's grab some plutonium for the first reactor. And that'll start making us some magentite. Now we're going to need a couple fluidizers. And we can copy and paste this one too. Now we just got to combine some plutonium and uranium, and that'll get us some veridarium. And while we're here, we're also going to need to melt some cyanide down. Now that we got some veridarium, let's pump it into our second reactor. And that'll slowly make us some rosenite. We got some big crafts coming up, so let's make some storage components. And we're going to need a lot of Certus quartz, so let's make an infinite quartz generator. There's a simple recipe to duplicate this, so let's just keep feeding it into the machine. And make sure to update your patterns to use the charged crystals. We'll use those storage components to make a bigger crafting setup, and be sure to add lots of co-processing units. Let's pump some souls into our core to speed it up, and let's give the nether star generators a little love. We're going to need a draconic bee, and we're going to need some honeycombs, so let's head into the bumble zone. We're also going to need some ghostly bees, so let's just generate a few of those in the nether. And we may need to do something evil with these bees, so you may want to look away. Toss some bottles into a bottler, then we just need to encourage them into the bottles. We'll need to break down the material in a centrifuge. That way we can get some ghost genes. Once we have enough, we can combine them into 100%. Then we just combine it with a honey tree and incubate it into a spawn egg. Then finally, you just gotta add some soul lava to it. Not like that. Whoopsies. There we go. I also learned that you can make some Crichton obsidian with that. Let's feed our Draconic Bee. That way we can get some Draconic Combs. Next up, we gotta set up some Ars Magic crafting. Be sure to give each of these 3 pedestals. Then we're gonna need to request some gems and some souls. And don't forget our lovely routers. Two of our chambers are going to be making source gems, and the others are going to be making some essences. Just toss the required items on each pedestal, and it will start making those gems. Fortunately, it doesn't consume what's on the pedestals. And because I'm out of bat wings, let's summon some real quick. Ouchie. And now we're auto-crafting all the elemental essences. Let's head over to the overworld to set up a quarry, as there's a couple things we can't get from the mining dimension. We're gonna need a 256 million storage, so let's see what we need for that. Looks like we just need some more gold and Certus quartz. The Certus quartz is doing its own thing, so let's go grab some gold from the quarry. And because the RF Tools Crafter isn't in yet, let's just manually upgrade some of our essence. We can make a blaze burner real quick, and then kidnap a blaze to fill it up. Let's make a couple more pieces for the star. Most of these are just simple stuff we have, but take a lot of crafting. So let's train up our crafter. We'll need about 3 rainbow furnaces, one of which we gotta blow up. Let's take a quick peek at our reactors now. Looks like they're still doing good. Let's auto-craft up a Supremium sword. Then we can make some mystical enlightenment and toss that on our sword. We'll need that for killing a wither. And by killing it with the enchantment, we can get some cognizant dust. So let's do a few more of those. With that dust, we're going to need a new altar setup. Toss the dust into some pedestals. And fill up the vessels with some essence. And now we have some Awakened Supremium. We'll need to craft 9 ingots to make a block. And we'll use that for a piece of the star. Heading back over to the other, let's go through a pyramid. We're gonna need to loot quite a few of these chests to find a relic. Having cleared out that pyramid, let's move on to another one. You may also notice that there's no piglitches spawning. I have no idea why. Normally these things are filled with them, which sucks because I need some of them. But after a little bit of looting, we finally found it. And look, a single piglet. We'll need to find a couple more of those later. But for now, they seem to be hiding. Now we're off to find some Cataclysm bosses. And on the way, why don't we kidnap some villagers? First up is the Harbinger, who scared me for a second because I couldn't grab him. But that's just because I was being dumb and trying to grab him with the piglet one. And while we're out here, we might as well look for some barbarian camps. These will contain our next relic. And that's 3 down and 1 to go. We gotta head over to a sunken city. So let's portal hop for some faster chunk loading. And now that we found it, let's head inside and get some mobs. We're gonna need this big coral boy. And then we need the priest with the knife. Next up, we're gonna head over to the end. And that's where we're gonna find our big boy, the Ender Golem. And last but not least, we'll need a netherite monstrosity. Luckily, this guy spawned right next to our portal. And in order to deal with all these mobs, let's make a mob crusher. Some of these mobs are not going to instantly die, so let's build up a little barrier. Now let's crush them up. And I may have forgotten to claim the area, so that man just made a big mess. So let's not make that same mistake twice. Weirdly enough, the Ender Golem does not instantly die, so you just gotta give him a little bit of time. And eventually he'll drop the Void Core. Let's also take down our Coral Boy, and then our Netherite Monstrosity. With all those items, we can make an Abyssal Sacrifice. We'll also need a Meat Shredder, and a Mechanical Anvil, and we can use that to make the Void Forge. We're going to need to craft a spell from Ars Magic. So all we need to do is pick the spell we want. Let's craft up an essence real quick. Then we just toss the recipe on the table. We'll also need some wither seeds, so let's fill up some soul jars. Let's craft a ME Quantum Ring, make the max tier pocket storage, grab a lightning bomb, make a paradox machine, some witherproof blocks, and another star crux. All items we'll use for the star. We're gonna need some blank runes, so let's swab this man, and let's swab this man too. And since we're in the nether, let's look for our final relic. Since this relic is so rare, let's make some luck potions. Then head back out and search for it. This relic is the most annoying to find. It can only spawn in a specific bastion, that being a treasure bastion, and those treasure bastions only spawn 1 to 2 chests. And each of those chests only has about a 15% chance of having the relic. Ironically, I found a different relic that I don't need, but we can still use it. So now it's time to search for some bastions. There's also some soul sand you can brush in these bastions, and that'll let us make a vibranium pickaxe. And then after about 20 minutes of looking for it... Oh my gosh, I found it. Freedom! So yeah, that's a fun mechanic. And after heading back, we can finally make the giant storage component. But it may take a little while to craft. So while that's going, let's head over to the Twilight Forest. Now it's time to do something a little cheesy. Let's head straight over to the Aurora Palace. So dark. We just gotta find that Snow Queen. So kind of just hug the walls until it spawns. Gotta do something that I'm sure plenty of people will complain about. Let's just get right in there. We got a handy dandy builder, and that's gonna take out the wall for us. Now all we gotta do is swab the queen, and then head back home and make the spawn egg. Let's set up a spawner in our grinder area, and that's all we need for Twilight Forest. We'll also need to kill some undead kings, but we gotta let them spawn in and wake them up first. And once enough are up, we can turn on the mob crusher. With that complete, we'll head over into Eternal Starlight. This is a new mod that I didn't see in 9. First we gotta find this guy. Now normally he gets pissed and starts fighting you, but for whatever reason he just didn't. It's not like it mattered anyways. He's a pretty easy fight. But he'll let us go through this portal. Then we just gotta find this maze structure. Then we gotta fight the boss. In order to actually damage it, you'll need to set it on fire. Fire aspect works for this too, but I prefer that. Flint and steel. Anyways, this guy's pretty easy to deal with. And he'll drop his loot bag. And be sure not to open this, because we'll need it for the star. And you'll need to kill his friend too. But you don't have to set this one on fire. You do want to open this loot bag, as it'll complete the quest that'll give us items for the star. That way we don't have to kill another one. Normally defeating the gatekeeper gives you some pearls for this quest, but since it bugged out I had to go and buy some myself. But that'll let us craft the Chain of Souls, another item for the star. And now back at the reactors. The reactor finally decided to break. So let's clean out that from earlier. Now that's all fixed up, we can finally get some more output. We'll need to get some Eclipse fuel, and in order to do that, we just need to convert and upgrade a bunch of coal. And once we have enough of each tier, we'll just convert a bunch of water. And last but not least, we gotta move it over to a dark tank. There's not much for creating this mod. All we'll need to do is make some casing. Then we just place a deployer on a depot. And we'll manually make a precision matrix. Now there's an 80% chance of success on these. And of course I failed that not just once, but twice. But as they say, third time's the charm. Now we just gotta make that into a mechanical arm, and we're all set with create. Let's also make a mycelial generator, and some fire runes that we'll use to make an upgrade orb. We're gonna need a couple more bee nests to hopefully coax in a skeleton bee. And we're also gonna need to upgrade our enchanting to the final tier. With these, we can finally make some infused dragon breath. We can use those to make a miniature end portal. Then we'll need to infuse some hell shelves. That way we can make a miniature nether portal. Then last but not least, we'll make the miniature exit portal. Now that our storage component is done, let's craft that into a portable cell. And this is going to complete a quest that'll give us another 256 mega cell, which is perfect because we need 2 for the star. And now that it's nighttime, let's see if we can get a skeleton bee. Here's one. Then all we need to do is get a wither rose. Sorry, villager. Then we'll feed that rose to the skeleton bee to make a wither bee. We'll also need a wither rose to feed it, and it'll make us some withered combs. Let's teach our system how to make a drill, and we'll need 2 of those for the star. Now that our reactors have finally made enough output, let's use those to finish extreme reactors. We'll need to process some plutonium down, and then process that again to reticulite. And then one more time into a nanite. And we'll need to toss some crystals in that we got from the nether to make some insanite. And then we're all done with extreme reactors. Let's convert some of our antimatter into pellets. Luckily we only need about 2 for this mod pack. We're also going to need some charged creepers, and let's steal their lightning. Then we can convert those into runes, and those runes into an orb. Our wither combs are ready. So we just need to turn those into a block and we're all set. Let's also make a tipped arrow. And that's 2 more items for the star. We're going to need 2 more reaction chambers. That way we can teach our system to make some quantum alloys. And with that we'll be able to make a quantum multi-threader. And we're going to need to convert some villagers into their evilcraft counterparts. Let's trade with them for some vengeance focuses. And some garbanzo beans. We're gonna need a little bit of blood, so let's combine a few extractors. Now we can fill that up at our mob grinder. Let's use that blood to make some blood orbs, and that's all we need to do for evilcraft. Heading back to the mob crusher, let's grab some legendary scrolls, and melt those down into ink. We'll use 1 legendary ink to make a wither skull scroll, and the other to upgrade it. Now let's upgrade our pickaxe to vibranium. And let's also get a couple more fortune books. Now let's head over to the end, and let's gather about 2 stacks of unobtainium. Be sure to ore hammer those up. Then let's do it again with all the modium. And a couple more love taps for the nether stars. Let's set up a fluid laser base, so that way we can milk a wither. So let's toss that bad boy in. Ruh-roh. Let's try that again. That's not quite right either. Third time's the charm, right? Okay, this guy sucks. I give up. We're making a new one. Now that we have a well-mannered wither, we got some ether gas. So let's use that to make a wither builder. Now it's time to head into Forbidden and Arcanus. We're gonna need a lot of this dust, which means we need a couple more phantom membranes. And we got plenty of antimatter to spare, so let's convert some leather. Now we gotta set up the forge. And with that set up, let's make some obelisks for some aura. We're also going to need to head to a roofed forest, which will unlock a quest that'll give us some elder wood. And we can have a lumber bee duplicate this for us. Now we can make a soul extractor with that. Then we can use this little setup to automate making souls. We're going to need a little bit of blood as well, so let's fill up some vials. Now it's time to upgrade our forge. Then we can upgrade it one more time. We're now going to need to make a special furnace, and that'll make us some obsidian steel. We can use that to make some corrupty dust, and we combine that with the dark matter to make a black hole. Throw some experience in it, and it'll convert it into some XP orbs. And now we can use those to make 2 eternal stellas. We're going to need one for the star, and let's use our other to make our soul extractor permanent. Now let's upgrade our forge to tier 4. Then finally into tier 5. Now we're going to need to do some ender IO, so let's make some solarium ingots. And just keep giving more love to those nether stars. This is when I realized that I'm out of souls, which means I've been producing way less than normal for who knows how long. So the best way to get more souls is to use some souls. And our warden's low, so let's boost up the stasis chamber. Now back to some ender IO. Let's make a slice and splice, and don't forget to give it a capacitor. Then we can use this to make some Z-Logic controllers. We're going to need to get into immersive engineering soon, so let's set up a coke oven to make some oil. And now let's construct a bunch of machines. Then we just need to grab some oil. That way we can make some treated planks. We'll use those for an engineer's workbench, and we'll use that for a couple recipes. For now, we just need a plate mold. We'll also make some ender resonators. Then we need to kidnap a few witch souls. And then we can infuse those into the ender resonators. Now it's time to move all our relics over. That way we can craft some modularium. And finally, we'll turn those into some plates on our metal press. We'll need those to make some machine casings. Let's add in our final relic, and toss in the recipe to make the Star Forge. Now we're getting pretty close to making the star. But before we do that, we need to get some source from our plants. And I just remembered we need a few more pigletches. Luckily this pyramid seemed to actually spawn them. Since the gems that did max HP are not in this version, let's use some unconventional means to get these things low. And with 6 of those killed, we can finally use our model. Now we gotta craft up some alloy blocks. We're gonna need those essences we made earlier. All that unobtainium and all the modium. Then let's grab some piglet hearts and turn those into some blocks. And in the center is going to be some source gem blocks. But before this thing can craft, we're going to need to bring the mana over. So let's make some ender source jars, and an obsidian jar to store a bunch in one spot. And now we just gotta transfer the mana over here. Once there's enough, it'll start auto crafting. So let's leave those for a minute. And have I mentioned the nether stars yet? Yeah, we'll need some more of those. Luckily, we can speed them up really fast. We're also gonna need a smelter prism. And you guessed it, a little more love. We can't let it happen 2 runs in a row. But this time one is kind of fun. It's a little groovy. Now that we have a little more oil, let's make our final machine for immersive engineering. And this mod's not that bad. It's just potato, into ethanol, into filtering that ethanol, and combine that with some oil, and you got some resin. Then you just need to bottle it into a plate. Then we can use that to make the item we need for the star. Next up is a little occultism. We just gotta get high to see these trees. Then we can use those logs to make some chalk. We're gonna need to do about 4 rituals. First up, we gotta make our little crusher pal. Say hi to Kerbeler. Then we just need him to crush up some endstone for us. We'll use that to make our next chalk. I'm seeing a pattern here. Now we need another ritual to make our lime chalk. And let's also make some light gray chalk. We can use that same summoning circle to make a stable wormhole. Then we gotta make a big way ritual. And we'll use this one to make a soul gem. Now we need one final ritual. Except for this one needs a little something extra. We're about to do something evil. Let's name this guy Rick. Rick, no! But have no fear, friends. He has been turned into a pickle. So let's swap our pickle Rick. Then we just need a spawn egg for the star. Then we gotta head into the productive trees. The mod's pretty easy. All you gotta do is get new saplings by pollinating leaves. And repeat the process a few times to get your final tree. And with that done, let's head into roots. Let's craft up a bark knife to get some bark off some logs. Then you just gotta set up a little ritual. Toss some items into the center, and some into the incense burners. Then light them up with your flint and steel. Then give the altar a click, and that's the entirety of rootstone. Now let's combine all we got into some star pieces. And of course we can't forget my precious stars. Now we need to do some new metacraft, so let's make some villagers to trade with. Then we just gotta trade with them until one of them offers some PCBs. We're gonna need to set up a charging station and start compressing some air. Now let's use those PCBs to make some assemblers. And let's use our little iPad to buy some assembly programs. Then we just toss the recipe inside a chest, and grab the correct program this time. And now our machines are going to slowly make our item. And we need about 100,000 nether stars, so we're still a little bit behind. So let's go grab those pressure tubes. We'll use that to make one more piece of the star. And we finally have our compressed items, so let's make the dimensional seed. We're also going to need 2 of the other ally blocks, and luckily they're not too hard to make. Now you can't make the star and create this time, so we gotta do this crazy altar thing. So let's make all the pieces for it. Then we can place down our altar and have it build itself. Luckily it tells us what we're missing, so let's make some of these blocks and place those into the altar. We're gonna need some ultram jars, as well as an upgraded pedestal. And in order for the altar to work, we just need to give each ultram jar a little bit of aura. Now the main part of the altar is all set up. In order to use this thing, we're going to need some hatches. So let's first make an item hatch. We're also going to need an energy hatch, but you might notice that this is an output hatch, so that'll bite me in the butt in a minute. And we're going to need an item output hatch. Let's also make the recipe for the Patrick Star. We'll use that in a minute. First we got to make some more awakened blocks and some unbreaking blocks. We can then toss that recipe into the altar and quickly find out we messed up. Luckily I realized pretty quickly that this is not an input hatch. Oh my gosh, it's an output hatch. I need to make an input hatch. Oh no. Or nor. It's not that big of a deal, but I do have to make some more modularium. Last up on our list is finishing up the nether stars. And because I'm panicking a little, I'll just compress them myself. Luckily it only took about 2 minutes of boosting those, and now we have all our nether stars. Let's atone for our sins from earlier, and add in that input hatch. While that's crafting up, let's go get the stuff for the Patrick Star. I like to just toss a pattern provider on a chest, that way I can just get all the items right away. Now let's use the altar to make the Patrick Star. But then I start panicking when I see it says no matching recipe found, so I was going to toss in another set, in case I did something wrong, but I was just dumb and left stuff in the output hatch. And now we have a Patrick Star. Let's add those into the altar, and now let's pick up the player transmitter to make the last piece of the star. Now all we gotta do is toss all this stuff in. We're doing it. I'm missing something. Oh. And that should be everything? Oh my gosh, you're missing something. Ah, it's the philosopher's fuel. Now you do it. It's happening. It's happening. We're doing it. Stop the time. And that's all the mods 10 in under 21 hours. And don't forget some fireworks. Thank you guys so much for watching. Not only do these videos take a while to record, but they also take forever to edit. So your support is greatly appreciated. Feel free to leave a comment below on what mod packs or games I should speedrun next. And keep an eye out for a possible live stream this weekend. With that being said, thanks for watching.